States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Pison, can we have a roll call?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bolin, thank you.
I'm here. Ms. Bernardi,
Present.
Ms. Goodwin-Dye,
Present.
Ms. Gruber,
Present.
Mr. Martin,
Present.
Dr. Stevens-Gunn,
Present.
Mr. Willis.
Here.
All right, Mr. Griffiths is excused, as you know, so we do have a quorum to conduct business.
Thank you so much. At this point, I would call for approval of the agenda, today's agenda dated March 27.
To the chair,
Mr. Martin?
I would like to recommend approval of the agenda for March 27th.
Second that.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda for March 22nd. You can take a roll call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous. And Mr. Bolin, Mr. Pison, for the announcements and communications?
We have none at this time, sir.
Okay, thank you. Our first order, the first item on our agenda is for 24175 Telegraph Road. It is a vehicle dealership. And are the presenters here, or would you like to start with the?
We'll start with the staff report, if that's all right.
Okay.
Yes, sir. As noted, this is a request for a vehicle dealership approval for special land use at 24175 Telegraph Road from Drifter Vans. They construct custom camper vans. They're looking to acquire the dealership approval so that they can actually purchase from the manufacturers and do the financing for the customers directly. Their hours of operation, they have one-day shift. They Monday through Friday, 7 to 6, and Saturday, Sunday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Number of employees currently 11, looking to potentially increase up to 12 or 13. The zoning of the area is I-1 industrial with a P parking strip in the rear. It is part of the Southfield Technology Corridor, so the use and the zoning and the future land use map are all consistent. Site aerial shows this is a 3-building complex under common ownership. This building where Drifter's at is in the rear. The owner of the property is also here today in addition to the business owner. There's just some photos. Here's facing 8 Mile in front of the building. As you can see, the address numbers are quite large to help people find it. We did discuss that last time, that sometimes, because the building's in the rear. A lot of paved area back there. And just some site buildings. This is the side. Site plan, just showing they've got designated inventory parking, employee parking, customer parking. And we did do a parking analysis of the individual building and its parcel and all 3 together as a complex, and it does meet the requirements for parking, both individually and as part of the complex. Building floor plan, as you can see here, they've got their space basically kind of wraps around the rear and side of the building where they do their production area and conversion and their painting and the drying and then the final inspection and presentation. There are a couple of other tenants in the building as well. Once again, back, we do have the petitioner present if they'd like to come forward.
Thank you. And for the record, could you state your name and your address?
Kim Lucin. My personal address?
Your work address.
Work address, 24175 Telegraph Road, Suite 100.
Thank you. Proceed.
Oh. Thank you. So, I'm Kim. I'm the co-owner and manager of Drifter Vans. We're a van conversion company, so we convert high-end camper vans for customers. We're in the process of requesting a dealer license and gates at the entrance of the parking lot to be able to request a dealership A license from Ford to get the van directly from them instead of what we're currently doing, having the customers buy the van, send it to us directly from the dealership, and then we convert it. We would work directly with Ford, getting the van from them, but for this we need the dealership license A and a gate at the entrance of the parking lot. The gate at the entrance is to get the vans in concession from Ford. We do custom camper vans like this, so we have a lot of different models, but all of the ones that we do are fully custom. They're made to tailor our clients. We don't do pre-manufactured models at all. You're welcome to come see the shop if you want to see the van. It's really nice. And that's it. It's just a photo to show off a little bit.
Okay. Then are there any members of the community here that would like to speak to this particular?
You actually need to sort of formally open the public hearing and then invite people
Fine.
forward. So, Mr. Lacine, if you could sit down.
And so I formally open up the meeting to any members who would have concerns, would like to speak to this body regarding 24175 Telegraph Road. Seeing none, then I'll close that opportunity for commissioners. I'll start at the far end. Commissioner Stevens-Guyton.
Young man, thank you so very much for taking time out of your schedule in order to address this group. I understand that you travel a lot, and we appreciate you coming before the body. I think that this is a good project, and we wish you success.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions? Commissioner Martin?
I believe I got all my questions answered at the preliminary study meeting we had, and I think you've got an excellent product going on, and I wish you much success.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully one day you'll do a van for me.
Commissioner Gruber?
I was going to ask, do we have to get on a waiting list to get a van?
Yes, right
Because
now.
I think we might all want one.
The next spot available is January 2025.
Okay, well, that's not so far off. Anyway, best of luck.
Thank
Give us
you.
time to save for it.
And
I have no
Commissioner-
questions.
Okay, and
No,
Commissioner
I have-
Bernoulli?
I have no questions, but I do love the name that you have.
Thank you.
And the pictures really, they do make us all want one.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I too am blown away by the photos, but I think, did I hear for the first time, maybe not the first time, are you exclusively working on Fords, or do you work on all models?
So, up to now, we were working on all models since we were starting, but now that we're getting ahead and we have a lot more customers, and Ford being local, we have a very good relationship with them, we're starting to specialize. So currently we work on all of them, but we're going to start to specialize doing Ford moving forward. 2024, we still have a few contracts with all different models, but 2025 is going to be specific to Ford.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any further questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is there, what size vans do you, is there a limit to the size, or?
So we would build on whatever the customer wants, but most of the time we do the standard Ford Transit high roof, the 148 wheelbase. So some of them are regular body, so 20 feet. Some of them are extended body, 22 feet. We work on both of them.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Ms. Bernoulli?
Yes, you mentioned at our last meeting about financing.
Yes.
Can you expound on that a little for us?
So
As to
financing.
whether banks, credit unions, what
So
is?
it's called Trident Financing. So it's a company that specializes in financing for RVs, Class B, and boats. So the way it works is that usually if you want to finance from a dealership, because we're not a dealership, you can finance directly through the dealership. But since we're a van conversion company, we don't own the van, we convert the van. Usual financing company wouldn't work with us, but Trident Financing has started to offer financing to a client, which means that they pay the 20% down to this company, the financing company pays us the full amount of the van, and we build it for the customers. Since COVID, the van industry kind of exploded, so now financing companies are starting to finance vans for van builders and not only van dealership, because the big Class B dealerships are Winnebago, Storyteller, the big ones. And now it's finally possible to finance the small guys as well.
Right, thank you. That's all.
Again, any further questions, Commissioner?
No.
Mr. President, recommendation?
Yes, sir. The planning department does recommend favorable recommendation of the special use request for drifter vans. We do find that it meets the special land use standards for the I-1 district. It is of such size and character that's in harmony with the other uses in that area, industrial, and its location, size, and intensity and periods of operation are also consistent with the other permitted uses. It's consistent with the purpose and spirit of the chapter, being a custom industrial process. It's right into that category. Access is from a major thoroughfare. They do all their work inside the building with a proper paint booth, so no issues with adverse effects on nearby properties. And we do subject to the only condition would be subject to the approval of the administrative site plan because it's in the I-1, it gets administrative site plan approval by the city planner, continuous compliance with all applicable ordinance codes, laws, and statutes, and petitioner must perform all work under plans, permits, and final inspections by the city. If they're making modifications to the building, in this case, they're just adding another function to their business. And their hours of operation Monday through Friday, 7 to 6, and Saturday to Sunday, 7 to 5.
Thank you. Commissioners, any further questions? Then the floor is open for motion.
I motion that we accept the favorable recommendation for PSLU 24-0001.
Do you hear a second?
I second that.
Thank you. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. You take care.
Yeah, they don't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you Monday. Well, Terry will see you Monday.
I think we're ready for item number 2, 28610 Northwestern Highway. Is the presenters here?
Yes, they are. I'll do the introduction if you like, and then we can move to the petitioners. I'll do the staff report and introduction, and then we'll bring the petitioner up if that's
Okay, fair
acceptable,
enough.
sir. Sorry. As noted, this is a special land use and site plan approval for 28610 Northwestern Highway, vacant property for an adult use marijuana retailer establishment. It is new build, ground up. Hours of operation Monday through Sunday would be 9 to 9, or in this case, the ordinance actually limits it to 9 to 6, but we are looking to potentially change that on some of the days. So it would be per the actual ordinance. And the number of employees at total they're looking for is 25 for all of their operations, not in one shift, but total employment. The current zoning of the site is B3, which is the correct zoning for this use. B3 is the only district, well, it's one of the districts this is permitted in. And then it does meet all of the separation requirements in the ordinance in terms of residential and other similar uses. It is a master plan regional mixed use, which is consistent. Advance. There we go. See the site aerial here? It was one large kind of L-shaped parcel, it went from 12 Mile Northwestern. This piece was split off so that it could be developed independently. The remainder, the owner is still working on development concepts for the remainder of the site. This is the site landscape plan. Building sits sort of forward toward Northwestern on that small driveway that comes off. That is private. It isn't part of the right-of-way anymore. It was vacated. And then has access from there. It will have a kind of dead end at the north end, so it could tie into the rest of the site as it develops potentially. Parking's in the rear. Entrance is also right off the parking lot. Got a loading zone on the west side of the building. And floor plan, you've got, coming off the parking lot, you go into a waiting and check-in area. Then you're led into the main floor where they actually do the retail sales. And then there's some secure areas in the back for offices and storage. What you see on here with all these little like wedges, those are the camera angles for the security in the place. You can see there's a lot of cameras both inside and outside the building. So a lot of visibility on that security-wise, part of their security plan. These are the revised elevations. We talked about these at the last meeting a little bit. They have increased the amount of brick, added some soldier courses, done a little bit on the south elevation, raised up those corners a little bit, and then they've got the hardy plank and brick, pretty much of the main materials, and glass So you get the north elevation toward the parking lot, south elevation's toward Northwestern. Then you've got the east elevation, which would face toward the oncoming traffic on Northwestern, and the west elevation is effectively the closest thing this building has to more or less a back from a traffic standpoint. This is the rendering, revised rendering for the one angle, the other corner. And then I know the petitioner is present if they'd like to come forward.
Through the chair, Tom, can you just go back to 29? And one more slide, thank you. And when the petitioner's done, I'd like to make a few comments on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Terry.
Petitioner, could you state your name and address, working address?
Yes, good evening. My name is John McLeod. Address is 801 West Big Beaver, Troy, Michigan, Suite 402. I am the owner, head of new markets, director of licensing, regulatory affairs, and compliance for Cloud Opportunity 4, which is the petitioner here. Thank you, Tom, for the presentation. You know, I wasn't able to be at the work session because of a family engagement, but I understand there was a lot of feedback regarding the appearance of the building, so we took great time to make some changes, as much so as even Tom gave us some comments from someone on the Planning Commission regarding the elevations on Monday, and we turned those around and made those changes, as you can see there. So very excited to be in Southfield. This is going to be an adult use marijuana facility. This is our 16th that we've built so far in the state, or will be our 16th that we've built in the state. We were the first approval in Southfield at the Wendy's at 12 Mile and Telegraph. I recognize some of you from that experience back in 2019, pre-COVID. And we're excited to be back playing in the city on Northwestern Highway. So happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Through the chair?
Yes.
Do you mind if I make a few comments first?
Be my guest.
And we appreciate the improvements that you've made to balance the front and the back, so to speak.
Of course.
I just have two additional comments that I think will just bring it to another level. Is the hardy board veneer?
Yes.
If you could change it to a darker tone or a warmer tone, like more of a wood grain, I think that would help balance. And then the lower course that you have the brick veneer, would you consider either like a stacked stone or darker brick veneer on the lower course? I think that will balance kind of the weight of the building.
A little more contrast.
Yes.
100%.
So lower course up to the band line or the sill line, either a stone veneer or a darker brick veneer, and then the hardy board, go with a warmer tone or a darker tone. You could play off complementary colors, but I think this will, the height differentiation and the pop-outs will give some shadow lines, and the banding definitely helps. I think part of the challenge, and we talked about, is the windows don't seem to be proportionate. However, I know that you have security issues.
Yeah.
So as a balance to the windows, I think if you make a couple of these additional changes, the building will pop a little more.
Yep, understood, and I made those
And
notes.
so what I'm going to ask is if this is favorably recommended tonight, you'll be back Monday in front of council, which I'll be introducing it for discussion. So if you could do a quick turnaround and get us the revised renderings by Monday.
Yep.
We can have them set in the PowerPoint for Monday night.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If that concludes your statement, then I would open the floor for public, and if I can ask you to have a seat. If anyone from the public is here to address that concern, please step up. Thank you. And could you state your name and your address?
Diddy Kleiner, 16750 Southfield Place, Southfield, Michigan.
Thank you.
So I manage the property, the office building, kind of almost directly behind this facility. It's on 12 Mile, faces 12 Mile, 25899 West 12 Mile. And myself as the manager of the building, and my largest tenant who takes a third of the building, have extreme concern with this building going up and the type of use it's going to potentially impact on the neighborhood. We're, you know, the way, the general concept of what it is, we don't know what type of traffic we'll bring. But also, on top of that, also the way the parking lot is structured, it's directly butting up against our parking lot. And as you see, the hours of operations here are past the time when it's dark.
Take it to an aerial photo, might make it a little easier to understand. There we go, wait, that one, right? Hold on. Right there.
Yes, if you, the top right,
This one right here?
yeah, exactly, right there.
That's your building?
So, and the parking lot, I believe, is currently designed to be right in the back of this site. There's always concern from our tenants that when it's dark outside, who's outside, and it's a security concern. The nature of this facility, as you can see, I believe there's more cameras in this facility than there may be in a bank. It was mentioned at the previous meeting at some detail about the security concern, and it's mentioned previously tonight about the windows. So it just gives you an idea of what's being offered to the neighborhood, and it's of great concern to us.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Okay. Please, and state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Babala. I work at 28400 Northwestern Highway. I'm the property manager of that facility. We also have some concerns of this type of establishment being in very close proximity to our building, which is our headquarters. We're also headquarters to a very large law firm who have also expressed their concerns with this type of facility being in very close proximity to us. We understand that it does meet the zoning requirements, but we did want to voice our opinion and our concerns. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Before you leave, just,
Yes,
Tom, can you point, is it the building to the right on the screen?
I think it's one more over to the right. There's a retention pond in the front.
Let me look.
And right by the arrow that has the N, I think, that's at the,
This one down here?
yes, right there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Any further comments? With that, we will close the comment section. Commissioners, any questions?
Well, I'd just like to thank the, where did he go?
Excuse me,
Oh.
Mr. McLeod.
Is
do you
there
want to come
another?
back up?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Doctor.
I'd like to thank you all for addressing my concern regarding the entrance that has been moved, and I think that that will facilitate patrons that visit the facility. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burton.
Oh, I'm sorry. Two things. In the colorized version of the building, it seems to be a stanchion for a sign out front. Is that included?
That one.
That, yeah.
There you go.
Is that included in the building plans? Or is it, if I understand correctly, signage has to be a separate item?
Yes, so through the chair, the building department reviews and approves signage separately. I do know there's a 15-foot setback requirement for ground signs, and then there's limitations on the size of the sign. So this is just a conceptual rendering that'll have to be approved by the building department. And they get one exterior wall sign per right-of-way. So they'll have a certain amount of square footage on the building that would be permitted, but only on one sign.
The other issue I have is, right now, it appears that the building is at the front along Northwestern, but the parking's behind it. And here again, I have a concern with the parking being hidden from the flow of traffic pretty much. And I could understand, in a sense, having the parking in the rear, since the building that's on 12 Mile has their parking in the rear. But it seems like your main entrance is at the back of the building rather than the front of the building, it's just, it doesn't seem like you're using the northwestern side of the building. You're hiding the services, the entrance to the building, being able to address the public by putting the entrance at the rear. That's your design, and I understand it. It's just, you just look at all the other businesses along the street, and all their entrances are at the front for their customers. And then you have all the parking spaces at the back, which, because of security, seems like you're adding a problem for security by having the parking at the rear where traffic is going back and forth across the front of the building, or across the northwestern side of the building, and nothing at the rear for nighttime security. I know because of the type of facility, you have a lot of cameras for security, but still, again, you're leaving the back at night dark, hidden. That's just my concern. It seems like it's a security problem by having the entrance at the rear and all the parking at the rear, and not having the building facing, an entrance facing northwestern. Is there any particular reason for that?
Well, yeah, it's fair feedback. Two things. One, if you look at, let's say you go to the next of us, the Chase that's next to us, they don't have this weird little cut-in service road.
Yeah.
So that causes a lot of challenges for our site to begin with. So that's partly, or mainly the reason why it's set up the way it is. Also because of the acre that we had to, that's a 6.2 acre site, but we only own that 1 acre. So we had to be really, I guess, strategic about the way we placed our parking, et cetera. My background is in law enforcement. I'm a retired police officer. Security will not be an issue at this site. We have security 24/7 at this site, including physical security on site after hours. So this site will be lit up, with the amount of lighting that we're allowed to by the Planning Commission. It'll be bright, it'll be guarded, it'll be very secure. As I said, will be our 15th store. We don't have issues. Generally, people understand that these places are highly regulated, like a casino or a bank, as described, and they don't really try us, so to speak. I think if you guys know, with the 2 operational stores that you guys have had in the city, from what I understand, there's only been that 1 issue at Loom, and those people that tried to break in there were apprehended quite quickly. But it's not an issue that I foresee having a problem with based on the steps that we take with security.
Through the chair, just Mr. Martin's point and Mr. McLeod, we have a 24-point security checklist that they have to work with our police department, and their cameras are tied in with the police department to alert, and we routinely ask the police for reports on our 2 existing, and we've had virtually no incidents at either one of those facilities. If they show up in a report, it's usually a traffic accident in front of their building. So other than the one that he mentioned, there's been no uptick in criminal activity at the location or immediately around the locations.
And I also started and run an association for cannabis safety and security in the state, where we compile information from all the operators in the state. And it's a free group to join, and it's basically an information sharing group that we have, because the state Cannabis Regulatory Association really makes sure that we abide by the rules, right? But there's not really any type of a follow-up or a sharing of information. If a store in Bangor gets broken into, the state will not notify other operators in the state of what's taking place. So we created this group to share this information, which is how I know about what happened at Loom, which is how we stay in touch with what's going on in the industry as a whole from a safety and security perspective.
My other issue is, where are you receiving deliveries of your merchandise from? Is that, you have a door on there indicated with a Pico, is that the entry level for deliveries, or deliveries come in the front door like everything else?
No, so if you look in the loading, yeah, you guys can see it. So you see the loading zone? Exactly. There's a door right there at the bottom of the loading zone. That goes directly into the building to a secure corridor, a vestibule, so to speak. So when deliveries come in, those come in transit vans, not ones that look like drifter vans, but transit vans. They'll come in and they'll deliver the product right into that stored or that secure vestibule area, in which case all the product is checked in. They have to bring us a manifest that displays every single product that's in there. We check, make sure all those products are in there, then they're released to go about their way, and then our product flows into our secured space in the store.
Yeah, the vestibule is right here. You can see that side door and the large.
Yeah, that's where the peephole, that's why I noted the peephole on the door. And here again, with the vestibule there, you seem like you're going to get, and I don't know what size deliveries you're going to get, but it seems like you're going to get a large delivery to go through a squeezed-in area to get it into the vault area that's indicated.
Yeah, I mean, our initial deliveries when we first open, in a year from now or whenever this thing comes out of the ground with your approval, we'll have some big deliveries in the initial first couple days, but after that, it's really minimal. It's really minimal. I mean, it's a good thing if we're getting large deliveries that frequently, but I don't anticipate being that case.
No, I guess my thing was, you know, I'm looking at, is anything coming on a pallet in? And
No.
So, okay.
Yeah, they're all transit vans. I mean, at most, you'll have one of those dollies to push boxes, but no, we're not getting big pallets or any of that kind of stuff.
Okay, all right, okay. That's all for me.
Thank you. Commissioner
I
Gruber.
might come back.
I have a question. Is there any kind of barrier between your parking lot and the adjacent parking lot for the office building?
So, I mean, if you want to pull that up, we don't abut the office building. If you look at our property,
It's actually down here, the actual property line. It's not right up in that corner. It's
okay.
right about here.
So the remainder, the 5.2 acres that exist outside of our 1 acre, we don't control.
Okay.
So I know that the landowner is working on a couple different options there. You know, some exciting stuff. I can't speak for the landowner, but we actually don't abut that property whatsoever.
Okay, and I just want to make sure I understood this correctly. You have physical people 24/7?
We will have physical security 24/7 on site, and this is third-party security. It's actually one of my old partners from the police department. He started a security company about 5 years ago,
Okay.
and he does all of our security at all of our
And
sites.
they're in the building or just sitting in the parking lot? or
During the
what?
day, you'll have someone inside the building, and then they walk employees out at the end of the evening, and they remain in the exterior until the employees show up in the morning, and then they walk them back in.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner?
I'm just thinking of the concerns of the residents, the people in the area, and the people that shop at your store. Will security be watching the lot while your patrons go in and out? Or is it just for the security cameras?
The physical security will be on the interior of the store during operational hours, so there will not be a physical security guard watching the parking lot during operational hours, but obviously, we have a robust camera system that is visible. The other thing too is, I mean, we're just a retail store, just like any other retail store. Our commodity just happens to be a highly regulated product, but other than that, we're just a retail store. So the flow of people will be the same. They'll pull in, they'll go inside, purchase their product, and they'll leave. There's no on-site consumption, there's no hanging out. It's not like it's gonna be a party in the back parking lot.
I understand that.
Yep.
How far of a range do your cameras show?
I mean, much further than you would expect. We're required by state law to have 20 feet surrounding any exterior wall and/or door, but we will have the entirety of that parking lot. Our cameras will be able to see to 12 Mile, to Northwestern. I mean,
And all the way to the back of your parking lot?
our cameras will see all the way to 12 Mile. Yeah, I mean, our cameras are pretty intense. And the other thing too is with the progression of the low voltage and camera abilities, we can zoom in. So essentially, I could take a camera at the back of my facility, and I could zoom in across 12 Mile, and I lose no pixelation. I don't lose any video quality whatsoever. So we have what they used to call license plate readers, but that's what the cameras are now. They're 180 cameras with actually 3 cameras on them, and you can zoom out as far as you can, and you're not going to lose any. There's no pixelation whatsoever. So our cameras are robust, and as Terry mentioned, we happily share that information with the police department, and more often than not, our interaction with the police department is them coming in and saying, hey, there was an incident at this adjoining site, or there was an accident on Northwestern Highway, or there was something that happened at the Chase Bank, and they'll use our video footage to help solve those crimes.
Okay. Your delivery times, will they be during business hours or?
Delivery of products?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Those are generally like 8 to 4. Those guys work days.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bernucci.
In reference to the delivery, how often do they deliver?
You know, obviously it'll depend on how busy we are as a store, but I would say generally it's maybe 1 or 2 deliveries a day at max. I mean, and that would be a lot. But and these are Ford Transit vans that are coming in, they're spending maybe 15, 20 minutes there, tops.
And the hours again, you said?
So we're 9 to 9, well, we're going to go by what the ordinance allows. So we're proposing 9 to 9, 7 days a week. The ordinance does not currently allow that. I think the ordinance allows 9 to 6 on Sundays, but I know that that's up for review. We will go by the ordinance, whatever those hours allow.
So just for clarification, you'll have to abide by the current hours of operation.
Yep.
If the council decides to amend the ordinance, you'll have to come back to amend your hours of operation to comply with the new hours of operation. It's not an automatic, just you're going to get approved for your special land use on these hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the council amends the ordinance to extend the hours on weekends, you would have to come back at that time to get your hours extended.
Yep, which is totally fine.
I just want both the commission and you to understand it. Now, if the council had amended the hours prior to you submitting your application, then you would just, it'd be one and done. But,
Yep. Well, and we have some time. I mean, obviously, we're coming out of the dirt.
I understand
so.
that, but once we go through this process, and if the council approves it, you're going to be approved subject to the existing hours of operation.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you. I heard your comment that this is just a retail store. I appreciate that. It gives you a certain perspective. But it's also in an area that we are looking at, buildings that are occupied by professionals, buildings that when you drive down Northwestern, you get a view of what the city of Southfield looks like. What you're building now, please forgive me, I don't mean to be disparaging in any way, but it reminds me of a White Castle. And it has very little color to it to me. It has very little attractiveness. I think the last time I spoke with someone, I compared it to a military Quonset hut. And now it's kind of moved up to a White Castle.
We're making progress, you're saying.
We're making progress, but step by step as compared. And so what I think is, it's in a position where development can and I believe will occur. And I think if we have a White Castle sitting in the middle, it's going to suppress that development. I'm very concerned about the aesthetics. And when I look at the other facilities, both are converted gas stations. Well, one is a converted gas station. But,
Subways.
But they did something to make them dramatic, distinctive looking. You know it when it's there. They're not, short of being gaudy, they're very attractive. This is a White Castle.
No, that's fair feedback. I think based on what Terry proposed as well, I think adding some color elements and some dimensions change to it, I think will make a big impact. I think I might need to find another architect, but that's a side point. But I think those changes will hopefully make you feel like it's less White Castle. The other thing too is we're doing this, although I can't speak on the other 5.2 acres of the property, we are doing this in conjunction with that development. So that landowner is presenting this to the other people that are going to be taking over the rest of that property, and they are, according to him, very pleased and happy to be located next to us and our operations. So our goal is to take our 1 acre betterment of that larger 6.2 acres of the K Center that's been sitting vacant for a long time and spur the growth so that that can be developed and be a betterment, bring it into the tax rolls, and add value to the city.
Okay. And I understand the interior, I think it's functional, I have no problems with it. Did you say you were going to get another architect?
I think I need to get another architect because yes, I think I need to find another architect at this point in time. Just because, I mean, obviously the feedback that was received at the planning session or the study session, you know, changes were made, updates were made, but if you're feeling like it looks like a White Castle, I'm not satisfied. You know what I mean? So for me, there'll be changes made, and I'll make sure that those changes are recorded prior to the meeting on Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback, too.
Commissioners, any further, no further questions? Recommendation?
Well, I've got kind of two different versions of the recommendations, but whether or not the planning commission wants to do.
Yeah, I'm going to just jump in. Because you've made some progress, and if Mr. McLeod is willing to adapt the further recommendations that I have, that I think will allay your concerns and my concerns, we're in favor of moving this forward. We can always, at the council level, if they haven't made it, you know, to our satisfaction, we could always slow it down at that point. But since this is scheduled to go on Monday, and they have made an attempt to improve the buildings, and with those changes that I recommended, and if they can get it to us on Monday, I'm comfortable recommending favorable approval, subject to our conditions and subject to some changes on the building. The other thing I will say is, it's really 14 years I've been working with the property owner on trying to improve and develop this. And I know it's difficult when you have a 1.5-story scale building adjacent to other office buildings, but if the long-term plan for the entire 6 acres is built out, if you've gone by this site, it's been tired and needs a lot of help. That building that's already there really needs to be removed, and there's been issues with this. That service drive used to be part of Northwestern Highway. That got abandoned, and that needs a lot of work. So I think let's forget about the use. The use is permitted, subject to, but I think an infusion of development on this acre site is going to encourage further development on the rest of the site, which then will benefit the entire corridor. So we don't have a requirement that you have to build a 5-story building there. So I think with some of the changes made, some of the changes recommended, that we're comfortable moving this forward, and then it'll progress and get additional comments and feedback at the council level.
So you're suggesting just approve it administratively and?
Well, it's what I'm asking is, if you're comfortable recommending approval subject to these conditions, I'm comfortable to say that I can work with the applicant to administratively upgrade the elevations before it goes to council.
Okay.
That's a little bit different than administrative approval, but you're deferring the administrative on the architecture elevations that our team will make sure it gets up to a standard before it goes to council.
And we can make sure the council understood your concerns, so that they'll also see that they get addressed.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
To the chair. So does that mean that if they aren't up to your standards, that it's going to get delayed from council, or is that something we have to do a conditional?
No, you don't need to do that. What will happen is, if we're not satisfied by Monday night and we're on discussion, I will ask for the postponement at the
council.
public hearing on the 15th. So they'll have till Monday, and then they'll have 2 more weeks.
Okay.
And either Tom or myself, whoever's attending the meeting, if we don't feel it's up to snuff, we'll hold our public hearing, let council get comments, and then we'll recommend that they don't take any action on it to a date certain until we get everything worked out.
And that date certain will come back to the planning commission or
Well,
back to the city council?
it just depends.
Okay,
It
I
just
got you.
depends on what the issues are.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We haven't heard recommendations?
Based on that conversation, the recommendation would be favorable recommendation of the special use request of John McLeod, Cloud Opportunity to build and operate a one-story adult-use recreational marijuana retail establishment at 28610 Northwestern Highway. We do believe it is relatively in harmony with and appropriate with the order of development of the general business district, which is where these uses are permitted as a special land use. Location, size, and periods of operation should be reasonably consistent with those areas and not a nuisance from what we've seen the two we have already. Proposed as being core with the spirit in the chapter, not inconsistent contrary with the sound planning principles. Once I said, this is the area B3 where this use is designated to go. The proposed use is of such character of vehicle traffic generated, not of an adverse effect to itself or the adjacent thoroughfares. We're on Northwestern and 12, with a Northwestern, which has a great deal of capacity, and this is a relatively small scale use comparatively for that area. Proposed use would not be adverse to the promotion of health, safety, and welfare for the community. Proposed use or change use must be designed and operated to provide security and safety to the employees and the general public. Those are the standards for special land use in the B3. For conditions, we're looking at subject to the approval of the site plan by the city council. The cash advance, the second is the cash advance business at 26062 West 12 Mile, operated by ACSO of Michigan, located within the 1,500-foot exclusion buffer in the ordinance, must cease operations prior to approval of any permits for this facility. They have an agreement to buy out the lease of that business. We'll need to see that business to cease operating before we'll issue permits. And then continuous compliance with all applicable ordinances, codes, laws, and statutes. The petitioner must perform all work and plans, permits, and final inspections approved by the city of Southfield. Now, for hours of operation, one solution I thought for the pending potential change in hours was instead of specifically listing the hours that are already listed in the ordinance, just say per the ordinance requirements of section 522-8. So should those change, then the new ones would apply. But if they don't change, the current ones would remain in effect. So effectively, they just have to comply with the hours of operation of the ordinance, which are the ones we typically cite in these things anyway. It just kind of solves us having a second trip back should the council decide to change those hours.
You've heard the recommendation. Are we ready for the vote? Chair would be willing to take a motion.
To the chair,
Mr. Martin.
approve favorable approval of PSLU 24-0003 and PSP 24-0001.
Support.
It's been moved and supported for approval for these two items. We ready to show a hand for approval? Again, we're ready to take the vote on these. Say aye if you are approving this, these two sections.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Thank you. You have a favorable recommendation, so good luck, and we will hear, I guess we'll hear from it after you complete your procedure. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item is 27090 Berkshire Drive, Child Group Care. Are
Yes,
the petitioners here?
Yep, they're present.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'll do a quick summary for you. As we noted, this is for a group daycare home on 27090 Berkshire and a residence in the R2 district. The hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Their number of employees is 3. The operator presently operates a family daycare home at this location, has for some number of years. As you can see here, zoning is R2, surrounded by homes, just off 11 Mile there. The master plan is moderate density single family, so that is all consistent. This is an identified special land use, family and group daycare homes in the district. Family daycare homes are by right, group daycare homes, which up to 12 children are special land use. This is the home here. As you can see, access from Berkshire, front yard, you got a play area in the back. Yard is fenced. They'll be putting a privacy fence along the back fence line, which doesn't currently have one. We do have a photo of the front of the house, some photos of the backyard, little egress window from the basement in there. This is the floor plan of the main floor. of the house. It's a bedroom, it's a ranch, bedrooms, living room, dining room, bathroom, and then floor plan of the basement, which is where the daycare operates. And then we were provided some nice photos of the daycare, very well lit, looks very nice. You can see the stairwell here at the right that goes upstairs, right out the side door. You can see in one of the photos, you could see the window well, but there is the egress window is there in the basement. I don't think I included that one just because I thought one photo like this kind of shows you what's going on in the basement. Petitioner is present, if they'd like to speak on this.
Thank you again. Please identify yourself and give us your address.
Good evening. My name is Carmita Johnson, and my address is 27090 Berkshire Drive, Southfield, Michigan, 48076.
Thank you.
And Yule Johnson, 27090 Berkshire Drive, Southfield, Michigan, 48076.
Thank you. There additional information you would like to share with us?
The additional information I had, I was asked to submit pictures. I did that, and also to get some neighbors'
Input.
support.
Yeah.
Yes. So I got that, and some information from some of my parents. They wrote a letter in recommendation of approval of this.
Okay.
I don't think those are in the pack, and the letters and the additional support. The photos are, though. Do you have
Okay,
copies?
yes.
Of those? Yeah, you could.
Okay.
All you can get from the chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To the chair, are these documents to be part of the presentation for the,
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Essentially, I heard them say just
Yeah.
additional comments,
Yeah.
so I can let everyone take a look at them. And do you have any other information? I need to say, I saw the pictures real clear, gave us a great view of what's going on. So I think you've done a great job, at least from what I can see with the pictures, so I commend you on that. And with that, I can ask if there's anyone here. I'm going to ask for public comment now, and I'm going to ask if anyone is here to address this by way of public comment.
If you just please have a
these
seat.
have,
Okay.
Another
If you could have a
forward.
seat.
Thank you.
Could you state your name and your address, please?
Yes, Candy Anglin, 27050 Berkshire Drive, Southfield, Michigan, 48076.
Thank you.
I just have a positive comment. Just want to say that the daycare, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson Daycare, operates with no concerns on my end. My son actually attended their daycare, and he's 17 years old now. So you can't even tell, there's no traffic issues or anything like that. So I'm in support of the daycare, and it's beneficial to our neighborhood.
Thank you. That's the kind of information we're looking for. Are there any other comments relative to this item? With that, I will close the floor for comments and commissioners.
Mr. and Mrs. Johnson,
If you,
I think the program that you have shared with us is really, really good. If I wasn't so old, I would consider having another baby. You do a phenomenal job, and I support you, and I wish you continued success.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Commissioner Martin.
I think you have a gold mine in your area, and I would like to suggest that you contact some of the homeowners associations in your area to let them know that you provide the service.
Yes, actually, one of the letters that I just provided, it is from one of the the neighborhood association. He's the treasurer of the.
Leon.
Oh, Leon Martin?
That sounds like Leon.
Do you know which association that was?
Is it from the Duncansons?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tyler and
Okay.
The reason I ask is that I know that the homeowners associations in the area have meetings, and they could,
Right.
and believe it or not, there are younger folks moving into the subdivisions in the area with small kids, and, you know, people need to know where they can get daycare and that, and
Okay, I appreciate that.
Commissioner Gerber.
Well, the pictures look amazing. I want to come. And the letter was just so heartwarming, and also your neighbor's comments, so best of luck.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Commissioner Stevens Gunn.
Already.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Dye. We're that way.
First of all, I wish we'd have known about you guys when my granddaughters were young, because my daughter had to take my granddaughters all the way to Detroit to a good daycare, okay? When she could have had y'all right here in Southfield where she lives. What is the youngest age of the child that you take in?
Currently, he is 7 months.
7 months?
Yes.
Okay. Do you take younger than that?
Yes, I start at 2 months.
2 months?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bernuti.
Yes, I too am just very, very pleased with how you presented yourselves at our last meeting, and you could feel the dedication that you have for these youngsters. And to want to take on 12, good luck to you.
I have some good help, so.
You can see that you really are dedicated. You're not just there for the paycheck.
Absolutely
You know,
not.
you really do have your heart in it, and
Thank you.
I really want to commend you for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I just want to say that I'm not going to have children, so you're safe from me, but I appreciate the job you're doing. It looks, and I just kind of reflect, kind of fellow commissioners. It looks like a really great place, so I commend you on that. And Mr. Payson, if you have any recommendations?
Yes, sir, we do. There's no site plan approval because this is a home and it's with issues that are subject to site plan review, but there is the special land use approval. We are making favorable recommendation of the special use request for Bertina Johnson for a group childcare home at 27090 Berkshire Drive. Residential character of the area shall be maintained, clearly. You can see it in the photo. She's already running a daycare there. Subject property is located not to hinder any natural features. It's in the middle of a platted subdivision. There aren't really any natural features to hinder in that location. No likely nuisances. It's consistent with the ordinance principles of sound planning to have these in-home daycares within the fabric of the neighborhood. It's a great amenity to actually have in your neighborhood. Vehicular traffic is pretty minimal. The pickup and drop-off times of kids at these home daycares tend to be somewhat staggered. They don't all show up at the same time or leave all at the same time. So there's a period, it's stretched out over enough time that it's not much of an issue. Not looking at any adverse effects from noise, dust, glare, or fumes with this kind of use. Not adverse to the health, safety, and welfare of the community, probably beneficial. Would be there a better argument. Subject to the facts, representation, stipulations submitted with the application placed on the record at the hearing by the petitioner. And just a few conditions: continuous compliance with all the applicable codes, laws, and ordinances, as noted. Installation of the 6-foot obscuring fence along the rear and side lot lines where they don't have them. That is a requirement of the ordinance for group child care homes. We've already discussed it. It's in the works.
Yes.
Hours of operation, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
To the chair,
Yes.
I move for a favorable recommendation for PSLU 24-0004.
Do you have a second?
second, no.
You've heard the recommendation and support. Are we ready for the vote?
Yeah.
And with that,
Through the chair,
yes.
I know two commissioners spoke at the same time for support. Who did you recognize?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bernuti.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready for the vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It looks like it's in favor, so thank you and good luck to you and thumbs up.
And you'll be at City Council on Monday, and then on the 15th, we talked about that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yes, we'll be there.
All right, thank you. That's at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Then are we ready for the next item?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that would be for 23840 West 8 Mile Road. Do we have the owner presenter here?
The applicant is present. I'll do my quick staff summary if that's acceptable, and then we'll pass it off to the owner. As noted, this is a special land use approval for wholesale and warehousing use at 23840 West 8 Mile Road for furniture. Existing light industrial building of appropriate type. It is hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5. Number of employees, 23, 13 warehouse employees, 10 delivery service employees. It is zoned I-1 industrial with a little bit of P parking in the rear there, which is in the areas of Southfield Technology Corridor, which is consistent both with the type of building, the use, and the master plan. Site area, as you can see, it's a kind of a deep, narrower building, matching kind of the shape of the site. Parking, pavement on the side, parking on the side, and parking in the rear. Here's a street photo of the site. You can see the showroom for their outlet liquidation area for the wholesale, and then the parking down the side, and then the whole back of the building, most of the building is the warehouse. Exterior conditions, relatively recent photos, some of the stuff we talked about last time, the pallets, the roll-offs. I know you're working on cleaning that stuff out. These photos are maybe 2 weeks old, something like that. They were taken shortly after our last meeting. This is a street view from Google. As it's noted, we do have some landscaping. The ADA spaces are getting moved up here closer to the actual entrance to the outlet liquidation area. And then there's some additional landscaping going on there to kind of bring the site back up to snuff on that frontage. There'll be some restriping of the parking lot to meet our current standards. They're adding a bike rack, and there is a pedestrian access to the door that exists, the front door to the building. You can kind of see that, and the ADA striping from the ADA spaces over to the door as well right here. So they're making some minor site improvements. Building inside are mostly existing. First floor plan, they got that small showroom area in the front, and then the rest of this is warehouse. It's you got actually an indoor well here. You can see that in some of this interior photos we have. This is the front third of the building. You got the showroom area for the outlet area, and then you're into the racking and storage. More storage, more storage. Get another truck well back here as well. There's a limited second story, kind of in the front with some offices. Most of it is not, it's very limited second floor up here, and then I guess a little bit back here. This is some interior photos that Alex took. You can see it's a pretty full warehouse. I mean, it's a warehouse. Yeah, so this is that interior loading area that's on the side of the building, the overhead doors where they can bring the trucks in. So that's why you don't see the trucks outside. They're actually stored in the building. And then you've got, pallet jacks, just rows and rows of boxed furniture in here. So the building is pretty full. Elevations of the building, these are existing conditions. So 3D models here just showing kind of how the building sits on the site. And then the petitioner is present here to answer any questions.
Thank you. And could you state your name and your working address for us, please?
Of course. My name is Amar, and I'm representing property 23840 8 Mile Road. Maria.
I'm going to ask you if you could speak up too. I'm having a hard time.
Oh, I'm sorry. So my name is Amar, and I'm representing the address, which is Maria Wholesale at 23840 8 Mile Road, Southfield.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what would you like to add to those comments?
Just the fact that we have kept on trying to make improvements, to make a business, a fully functional business, and of course to look after our neighbors. We've got residential, and we've got other businesses around us, and we have the last thing we want is to affect anybody. We're on a main road, so we're in front of the eyes. So we try to keep everything tidy, everything clean, and yeah, as you said, it's a full warehouse. So my job is like a doctor. I have to be there 24/7, to make sure everything is tick-tock, aisles, exits. I've got employees, which is under my responsibility, and I have to be, make sure everything is tick-tock, everything's clear, no health and safety issues. And I think this is the main thing for me on a daily basis.
Okay, I'm losing you some.
Sorry, I'm just, sorry, a bit too close now.
Sensitivity changes a lot.
Yes, so I'm just saying, my mom.
You can bring that mic to you.
Gotta
Pull it down.
just keep it right close to your mouth. It picks up pretty good as long as you don't pop it too
I can
much.
hear you breathe.
Yeah, if you hold it to the side, then you're not blowing on it. It works better,
Okay.
but.
There you go.
So my main concerns, like I said, is I'm surrounded by residential properties. I'm surrounded by 2 other businesses. So I try to make sure that my business doesn't have an effect on my neighbors, residential or business. And yeah, as you said, I have a full warehouse. So I have a lot of responsibilities to make sure there's no health and safety issues. Aisles are clear, everything's stacked the correct way. I have, my product can weigh anything from 20 kilos to 100 kilos. So stacking the right way, making sure my employees are always, kind of mindful of the health and safety issues around it. And I think that this is kind of my main tasks on a daily basis. And we're trying to improve. We're always trying to improve, since kind of the city came to us and they've recommended some changes. I made changes with the aisles, the whole floor plan, to be truthful. I changed it to be accommodating to everybody, to myself, which has helped me as well. And of course, for you never know what happens in the future. But yeah, I've tried to kind of, anything that has been requested of me, I've tried to do. And I hope I'm here today and I have satisfied you guys with the changes that I've made and to get the A-OK from you guys.
I believe last time you were here, you mentioned that you have 7 furniture stores that this acts as the central warehouse for?
Absolutely.
I would ask the public if, so we will open the floor for the public, and then we will close the public. So, commissioners?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for staying in Southfield and for working with the department and the city to make sure that your business is in compliance with all the regulations. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate the cleanup you've done to your area since our last meeting. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Commissioner Gruber?
Ditto.
Yes.
I don't have anything.
And
The appearance was important to us, so we appreciate that. Would you tell me how will you advertise for people to know that you're there?
The shops deal with their own advertisements. Most of our advertisements done through social media. So a few years ago, we started on Facebook, which was the main kind of social media output that we have towards the public. And then now we've expanded to TikTok. That's the kind of the new bang. So most of our advertisements done through social media, to be truthful. We do leaflets every now and then. But that's coming to an end. So like everything we do, if we have any sales, if we have anything, we roll out the sales, new prices, things like that to the shops, and they deal with their own advertisements. Each shop you can deem as an independent body, and they deal with their own advertisements and people that deal with the advertisements for them. So we just roll out the prices, and then they do the next step on how to advertise and how to approach their advertisements.
I was concerned about those who are not savvy to social media and computers and all of this. Seniors, how would they know when they want to, get rid of some things
we've
something
always
like-
dependent, as a group, we've always kind of started on word of mouth, because, of our prices, we've always, the word of mouth has always spread. Now we have, of course, our trucks, our advertisements themselves to our shops, our numbers, the things that we offer. But, we haven't expanded as such to go into other streams of advertisements. We're in an aspect of things, we're a new business. This warehouse has existed for 4 years. Prior to that, we had 2 shops, and over the past 4 years, we've expanded. So, you know, we're taking a step at a time, But at the moment, you know, if you ask me what is your form, what's your main form of advertisement, I would say social media. Any other things like, you know, we deal with a lot of Middle Eastern communities, Chaldean communities, and a lot of, you know, whether it's somebody had my word during a church, or whether, you know, they're sitting in a coffee shop in Dearborn, and hey, you know, have you heard of a home center? You know, and sometimes it passes on that way. So, you know, we get people from all ages and all aspects of life, whether you're starting your life now as a married couple, or whether you just wanna, you know, refurnish. So, you know, we get all aspects of people, all ages, and, you know, step by step, hopefully we can improve
And your
whatever we're lacking.
employees, you'll see that you'll also employ some Southfield.
Most of my employees, to be truthful, are from Hamtramck, borderline, on the 8 Mile strip. You know, most of my employees are along that 8 Mile strip, down further 8 Mile Road. I've got some employees from Dearborn, and my line manager is actually from Southfield.
I see that you have a total of 23 employees, you said?
Yes.
13 will be in the warehouse?
Yes.
And 10 for delivery?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I really would ask you that you would consider some Southfield employees, if there's any way that
I promise you, I've tried. And we had employees from
Just
Southfield.
consider it.
You know, we've contacted agencies, you know, they brought us food. But my job is a daunting job. It can be very daunting sometimes, you know, certain days, you know, doing nothing, and other days, you know, you could go containers and we have to unload, and, you know, and not everybody's kind of can adapt to that lifestyle. So, you know, like from every 200 employees, I've managed to create about 4 teams out of them, because I always have a high turnover of staff. You know, it's not because of anything, it's just the type of job there is. You know, a lot of people have tried to do my job and they failed, you know, but I've stayed on my job because I like my job. And it depends on your personality. It depends on so many aspects when it comes to employment and finding the right employee and the right attitude. It has to be so many different balances you have to take on. So I promise you, we've tried. I've tried.
I appreciate your honesty.
Absolutely. If a good employee comes and wants to work for me, welcome, open arms. But it's a hard job.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, absolutely.
And especially for your honesty.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Has nothing to do with anything, but I grew up in Hamtramck, and so I know the area well. Mr. Pisen.
Before you go to the recommendation, if I could ask a few questions, because I'm going to be introducing this Monday night, and I wasn't here before, if I could. Mr. Payson, what is the site currently approved for?
Yeah, I'd have to look at Sarah's records. I know she told me it was not warehouse. The warehouse would require this special land use, but I don't recall exactly what the prior approved
Because
use
I know
was.
that this had a split zoning at one time.
Yeah.
I mean, a long time ago, it was a furniture warehouse with a retail showroom in the front. And it kind of sounds like that's what it's going back to. And then it was Kamau owned the property, and they wanted to use it for some warehousing or storage
Related to manufacturing.
related
Oh,
to
that's right, yeah.
manufacturing.
Warehousing related to manufacturing is a permitted use. Freestanding warehousing is a special land use.
Right, so that's, I just want to be clear on what's triggering,
Yeah.
because again, at one time, it was a furniture warehousing with retail in the front, and it had a split, it had a B3 zoning in the front and industrial in the back. Then Kamau took it over,
Yeah.
warehousing for manufacturing.
Yeah.
So this is just, it's a change in the special land use approval.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, when you have warehousing associated with the manufacturing operation, that's actually a permitted use by right.
Right.
Associated with the manufacturing.
Right.
Freestanding warehousing and wholesale are both special land uses. And they're in the front, they're not like a large scale retail. This is their scratch and dent, like the stuff they can't send to the regular stores. So it's not, you said you maybe get 1-2 people a day, maybe?
If that,
Yeah.
this week I've had 2 people come in, one today and one yesterday.
Right.
And
right.
So
and
that's why
it's-
you don't advertise for this location, because it's primarily a warehouse.
Right, right. I'm just trying to get clear. How long you been in there?
It's coming to 3 years, coming to 4 years.
Okay, so this is a non-conforming use? Because it looks like you're occupying it already.
The shop is.
I mean, the warehouse, look, the interior photos look like you have this packed, so you're already there. Okay. And what are the brands that you sell?
We deal with Cosmos, we deal with Hughes, we deal with Furniture World, we deal with Ashley.
Okay, so a variety of brands. Are they all scratch and dent or discontinued, or do you just have a variety of things?
Everything is brand new. Everything is a brand new product.
Okay, so you have a warehouse to support your other 6 or 7 retail locations.
This is the warehouse.
And then the small, not untypical of other warehousing, you might have a small scratch and dent retail for people. Gorman's does that, right?
Yeah.
They have one on Haggerty and Farmington. They have their stores, and then they have the scratch and dents or the returns, and occasionally you go in there and see if you can get a good bargain. Okay.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
That's actually precisely what it is.
Okay.
95% of the building is warehousing.
Right. And then, Mr. Payson, we've already, we have a separate site plan submittal?
Separate administrative site plans.
Okay, and that, I have the authority to approve that, and I have some specific comments on the site plan, but we're just here to talk about the special land use tonight, and I just wanted to make sure I'm comfortable with understanding how and why we're here, because we'll be back together Monday night in front of council.
Yeah, you have another meeting in front of council on Monday for introduction with the council, and then the 15th will be their final item. So you have 2 more meetings, and then you'll be done. They're going to make a recommendation tonight.
All right, thank you, through the chair, thank you.
Then again, Mr. Payson.
We move on to the recommendation here.
Yes.
Yeah, the planning department is recommending favorable recommendation of the special use request related to the wholesale and warehouse, furniture warehouse. In this case, the use is harmonious with the I-1 district. It's pretty much I-1 or IL is where you would typically find such a use. Its size and intensity is appropriate for the area and the use. So it does fit the planning of the area along 8 Mile there in the industrial district. Minimal effect on major thoroughfares, given that 8 Mile is designed as a major truck route in that area. The noise, dirt, dust, fumes, not expected to be a problem. The only generators would be the actual vehicles making deliveries. Proposed use, not adverse to health, safety, and welfare of the community, and would be based on the documents, facts, representations placed on the record. We do have a couple of conditions here, subject to the approval of the site plan by the city planner, the administrative site plan as noted, and continuous compliance with all applicable ordinance codes, laws, and statutes. Hours of operation Monday through Saturday, 8 to 5, Sunday closed.
Thank you. Heard the recommendation of Mr. Payson. Any,
To the chair,
yeah, thank you for a motion.
I move that we accept the favorable recommendation for, PLSU 24-0005.
Thank you. Any support?
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Move for the vote. For all approved.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous vote in favor of. So I thank you, sir, and good luck to you, and I'm going to pay you a visit. I'm curious to see what you have.
Meeting on
Okay.
Mondays at 6 p.m. in this room with the council. So Monday at 6 o'clock. Yep.
He's nervous. He's got to come back.
When-
You have it written down, I thought. What you have written down, I thought you repeated it to me.
Planner Crowe. It looks like you're presenting. I won't ask you to give your name or address.
I'm here tonight. This is the fourth step in our capital improvement program. As you recall, we had a long-range study session on February 21st where each of the department heads came in and presented their capital improvement plan. Then we met with the Council Finance Committee on the 20th, and back to Planning Commission for a long-range study meeting on the plan itself. Tonight is our regular commission meeting. It's being televised, so that's why we go through this process, so that the public has an opportunity to review it. And then I'll be back in front of council at our Committee of the Whole study to introduce the CIP on April 8th, and then Mr. Payson will be back on the 15th for council's consideration of action adoption. Every year, I'd like to just remind everybody what a CIP is. It's a schedule of public expenditures for a 6-year period, an inclusion of the annual budget. So year one is the proposed fiscal year 24-25 budget. Years 2 through 6 are best guesstimates or wish lists from each of the department looking long range. Those could change. It does not address all capital expenditures, but it does include physical improvements that are permanent in nature or substantial equipment purchases needed by the city to function successfully. We generally use a $5,000 or more threshold per item. And why is the CIP beneficial? Because it allows for a systematic evaluation of all potential projects at the same time and provides coordination between departments and presents a unified plan for financing. It's also required by the State Enabling Act. And the State Enabling Act specifically says that a planning commission, you, as the body, after adoption of a master plan, shall annually prepare a capital improvement program of all public structures and improvements. It also is a requirement of our redevelopment ready certification. So it's best practices. And part of that State Enabling Act says specifically that the CIP shall show those public structures and improvements in the general order of their priority based on year and within the ensuing 6-year period. And each agency or department shall provide that information with lists, plans, estimates of time and cost for the public structures and improvements. Our last CIP was successfully adopted in March of 2023 for fiscal years 23-24 through 28-29, and a full copy of the document can be found on the Planning Department's homepage of the website under Resources. Again, we start this process in December of each year, and generally takes about 5 months to get through the process before council approves it. We also time this so that council has this information prior to their budget adoption and discussion in May and June. There are typically 8 major categories that are discussed in the CIP. They include equipment, facilities, water and sewer, stormwater and floodplains, parks and recreation, data management, roads and bridges, and then finally pedestrian enhancements. Equipment and facilities. So the Southfield Public Library also contributes to the CIP. They recently celebrated their 20th anniversary last year. They have an honored role in the community, not just for Southfield, but surrounding communities. They reintroduced their patrons to services and opportunities the library provides to live their motto, we help people succeed. And libraries have changed over time. It's not just about books anymore. They provide all kinds of resources, business development. They lend out laptops. They have labs. They have speakers, concerts, just about any resource that you can think of. And they're continuing to evolve to meet the needs of the community. Library is committed to creating access and inclusion, so some of their spaces are being redeveloped for Wi-Fi access points throughout the building. They're introducing individual study booths. They have a mobile lab where laptops and furniture can be moved throughout the library and taken to outreach events throughout the community. They anticipate costs in fiscal year 24-25 of $140,000 for these upgrades. They have to maintain their space. At 20 years old, some of their HVAC systems, including their chiller replacement that keeps the computer equipment and patrons from overheating. They have air valve inspection and repair, exterior and interior door replacement, and furnishings such as carpeting, windows, and lighting. They estimate that to be $1.8 million in the upcoming year. They're focused on creative space, creating a Mac computer lab. One of the new things that was in response to patron survey is they're going to provide a podcast recording studio. And they have estimated cost of about $170,000. Our Southfield Police Department, as you've seen, the life of some of their equipment is usually rated at about 5 or 6 years. So they're continuing to rotate their stock of ballistic vests, cameras, tasers, and so forth. So they anticipate about $31,500 a year for the next 6 years, total of about $189,000. So every sworn officer is issued a ballistic vest, and they do expire and they require replacement. They also work with our IT department on purchasing body cameras, cameras for their fleet of vehicles and their taser program. And that also includes training, repair, and upgrades for 24-hour support, $410,000 each year for the upcoming years of the plan, $2.4 million. This is something that was introduced a couple years ago. It's integrated with a number of our adjacent communities, the Flock license plate readers. A number of private businesses also have purchased this for their parking lots, and they share this information with the police department. So the city center has purchased 5 and put them at strategic locations within the city center district. And what happens is that if a license plate is in the database anywhere in Michigan, otherwise, as being stolen or involved in some type of criminal activity or an abduction, these cameras, if they get a hit on one of those license plates in their database, they immediately inform the local police department, and they are able to follow up and investigate if there's any type of criminal activity. And in one case recently, a car that was reported stolen was coming up Evergreen northbound. There was a patrol officer going southbound. It crossed one of these cameras. It got a hit. He was able to hit his lights, do a Michigan left, and apprehend the suspect almost within minutes of being notified. And we've had a very high success rate in discouraging crime and getting the bad guys because of these. They also have a need for a mobile command center. Their current one is 20 years old. Again, a lot of this technology needs to be updated. They're anticipating about $500,000 to fully purchase and outfit this product. And they're anticipating the need in the next fiscal year. SWAT handgun transition, they're trying to provide similar handguns and equipment that are compatible with each other throughout the force. Currently, they have a program with Oakland County's animal control to take overflow because we close our shelter. But after hours, the dogs or whoever that are, pets are apprehended are put in cages and are being stored in the police department's parking structure. So they want to provide a more humane way of taking animals into custody and providing for their care. So they need some additional equipment for that, and they're working on making some upgrades to the former shelter just for department police use on a temporary basis. They have ongoing building repairs, just like most of our facilities here that are 50, 60 years old. Crime Lab, they have some repairs and organization that's being mandated by the state. They're out of space, they need more storage area, they need more areas to process lab findings. The Southfield Fire Department does a great job on tracking their vehicles, their mileage, and their wear and tear. And they have projected their needs over the next 6 years, some higher than other years depending on the piece of equipment. And we're hearing that it's anywhere from 18 months to up to 3 years to have these vehicles fully built and equipped out based on the backlog and logistics and supply. So even if they ordered something this year, it might be 2 or 3 fiscal years before they are able to receive the equipment because it's so specialized. They also have support equipment such as thermal imaging, forcible entry door prop, life support radios that they constantly rotate. And what I've learned going through this process of CIP, the fire personnel have a very high rate of heart attacks due to the stress and heat. And so physical conditioning is very important, and these treadmills need to be upgraded so that they can stay in condition to be at their optimum when they're fighting fires or rescuing people. So it's not just a luxury item anymore. And then the entire City Hall complex, as well as the fire stations, are all getting upgraded fob key system to get in and out of particular buildings. They have data reporting, and there's striker preventative maintenance. That's the former gurney stretcher type of thing that helps reduce back injuries to the fire personnel and can lift oversized individuals in the need and help with lifting and extracting people out of difficult situations. Currently have 5 facilities, all of various ages and needs. We are reviewing 2 of them for some upgrades on their site for compliance with their parking lot and accessibility. They do have some longer, more major infrastructure at each of these facilities. I know that in some cases they don't have separate men's and women's locker rooms or men's and women's restrooms or accessible areas, so they have to make some upgrades there. So the chief has, based on their reports and studies, projected that it could cost $27.5 million to do either complete remodeling or tear down and rebuild of the stations, and their station priority is listed above. So new station number 1, which is the one located on 9 Mile closer to Northwestern Highway. That needs a complete rebuild. That's projected to be about $20 million. And then facilities need constant renovations and work. Fire department exterior. So we installed the state-of-the-art fire tower a year or so ago, but they never were able to complete all the flat work and some of the other infrastructure to support that fire tower. So they have that scheduled for this upcoming year. And their pit for pump testing and so forth needs some upgrades. With regard to maintenance, and in the past, and I know the question's been asked, the facilities team has come with doom and gloom about a lot of different facilities needing a lot of different work. But because the city is under investigation of doing a major overhaul with building additions and reorganization, for now, they said we need some additional equipment just to help maintain what we have, that they have turnover and difficulty in hiring custodial staff to do this type of manual labor, and that by purchasing a few of these automated machines can redirect some of their limited resources to other areas that need attention. And these automated floor scrubbers, as well as the vacuuming, are basically plug and go, and it can be monitored by staff while they're doing other things. DPW Motor Pool has a constant need for upgrading their equipment, making repairs, and buying the latest and greatest to provide outstanding services here in Southfield. Engineering usually has a good handle on 3 to 5 years in the future because it's based on funding and priorities and bidding. So there are several sections of the city that are designated for upgrades. I was speaking to the city engineer earlier today. That 9-mile road that's going to be put on a road diet from 4 lanes to 3 between Evergreen and Losser. Staging is scheduled to begin mid-April, and then there'll only be one way of traffic opened up, and then at some point during construction it'll switch over to the other direction as they're doing different parts of the road. So we got 8 Mile under construction, major water infrastructure improvements. 9 Mile is going to be under construction. 696, she said you haven't seen anything yet. If you thought you got some headaches with that, everybody's rerouting. So be forewarned to plan your trips accordingly. As I take 9 Mile in and out of the city every day, I'm going to have to change my route of travel pretty soon here. But the good news is that we still have a pretty robust road resurfacing, reconstruction, and maintenance. We're at the very end of our $99 million road bond that we've used very successfully to leverage other federal and state dollars. But this is the proposed construction schedule for the next 5 to 6 years. The nature of stormwater management has changed from gray infrastructure to green infrastructure. The county has recently updated their stormwater standards that everybody has to adhere to. We try to use low-impact design and green infrastructure wherever feasible. There are a number of stormwater and floodplain project locations because of the Tamarack Drain and the Rouge River. We've been very successful in receiving a number of grant dollars to help with these issues. And some of our local parks and green space are going to benefit from it. With regard to parks and recreation, we've had some recent successful conversions of neighborhood parks to meet the needs of today. Some of the old basketball, tennis courts have been converted to pickleball. Some of the old tennis courts have been converted to basketball. Walking paths and new playground equipment have been upgraded in many neighborhood parks. And the city supervises and takes care of almost 775 acres of parkland and open spaces, as well as 7 park facilities. On the left is what's been completed. On the right is what's in progress. Carpenter Lake should be opening up for their improvements late spring, early summer. Losser Woods is scheduled for a dog park and other pathway improvements. And we're partnering with Oakland County to make significant improvements to Beechwoods. The southern 39 acres is going to be managed by Oakland County Parks and turned into a passive recreational trail with some passive amenities. And the northern part are going to see some upgrades to parking and circulation, playgrounds, and picnic shelters. Some recent improvements have been made to, or are planned for the tennis and racquetball courts here at the municipal facility. The golf course is going to see some improvements to their golf cart trails. And Freeway Park is getting some additional work, and maintenance equipment is being purchased as well. This is a projected funding, revenues to be spent. Our data management is constantly keeping up with the threats for cybersecurity. So they have evaluation, strengthening, training to protect the network. We, as employees, are constantly being tested to not open up phishing emails, and every once in a while we get busted. But we also have routine training every 6 months to make sure that we don't have any security breaches. Computers are being replaced, older desktops are being replaced with new software demands. Server are being upgraded. I didn't realize is our phones actually are tied in with our computers, so they all have to jive with each other. Management software, everybody's using the BSNA system now. We're all integrated from various departments. For everything from looking up our own paychecks, to changing our W-2 forms, to managing site plan reviews, to coordinating with compliance issues with the building department, to financial data. The Cisco switch replacement, again, that's dealing with the desk phones. I mentioned the in-car laptop and docking station replacements, not only for the police department, but for our codes and DPW. And we also have UPS devices throughout the city locations that need to be upgraded. We're all going through a secure badging system upgrade, so we'll look more like a credit card swipe than I have the old with my picture ID. I think Mr. Payson, Mr. Boland, do you have the fobs? So they have to carry two things. This will be one. And this, I think, will also be integrated with your phone and computer. So everything will be tied in. As a department head, I get reports on when everybody comes and goes in various buildings. So I know when people show up and when they leave. But if I had a part-time employee or intern, I could restrict the hours that they have access and to where they have access, as well as any employee. But that's a way of tracking. And if somebody is terminated or they go south on us, we can turn off their access immediately. The old days, where I used to work, when they escorted an employee out, the locksmith is sitting in the truck waiting to come in and change the lock and issue 36 new keys. We don't have to do that anymore. And then finally, pedestrian enhancements are mostly run out of our department in coordination with other departments wherever we can cost share or leverage funding. But as I constantly report to Planning Commission, Council, and others that walkability and bikeability is always in the top 3 requests of residents here in the city. And we're also in the business of attraction and retention of our employees and our business community. We have robust academics here with Lawrence Tech University and others. And it's important that we continue to strive to change the direction from the 1960s, where we were auto-dominated for 50 years. And when we do a pathway right, everybody benefits. Persons with disabilities, young mom with children, older adults, a healthy individual that just wants to go out for a walk at lunchtime or a run, all benefit from these shared use pathways. And with the pathways, that's the major infrastructure, is the placemaking, the layering, with art installations, with signage, with wayfinding, with lighting, with pedestrian amenities. And all those things give a sense of well-being to the community. And I often say, even if you're in your car driving, you're not out walking, when you see people out, they have an opportunity to stop and talk with each other. it says something positive about the community when you see the vitality of people being out in the public realm, engaging with each other. We have always developed at least a 5-year master plan for our trails, for our signage. What I'm really excited about is that all the hard work that we've done for the last 10 years, we're starting to really develop a system that eventually will link up to more of a regional system. And we've always kind of been looked down upon a little bit by our regional partners and organizations as, well, that's a nice local system. But until you connect to the regional system, you really haven't made it. And our development of the trail in the city center, which is our highest density residential and business community, and providing access to other major facilities such as the Civic Center to Lawrence Tech to OCC, the city center to the DDA, the hospital and so forth, and all of the residents that live within a quarter mile on either side. We're really extending the network to provide heart-healthy activity, transportation networks for individuals who need to take public transit or would like to walk or bike to work or to the library or any other services. And then as we develop this 9-mile Greenway corridor, then we start linking in with our adjacent communities, and then eventually the I-275 corridor, the Joe Louis Greenway, and some of the other regional networks. Which I spent some time with our graphic sign support team to come up with potentially 20 additional regional trails that represent hundreds of miles of greenways and trails that someday Southfield residents will be able to literally walk out their door, get on our system, and then connect to any of these regional systems. We've been involved with our partner communities on the 9-mile corridor. We have plans working with the Arts Commission, Parks Department, engineering, the Downtown Development Authority, to fully develop this corridor, to make it pedestrian and bike friendly, to use Bowerwick Woods Park and Beechwoods as trailheads. And the mayor, as you know, working with the Friends of the Public Art, has commissioned a significant, unique piece by Sebastian, well-known international artist out of Mexico City, to build a 97-foot tall sculpture at 9-Mile Crossing, which will be a signature piece that will be seen not only from Niobeb, but the Southfield Freeway Northwestern Highway interchange. This year, in addition to the 9-mile corridor diet, we'll have an extension of about 3/4 of a mile of our pathway. So the southern part of 9 Mile is being extended 12 feet of additional green space by the elimination of one lane of road, and that'll provide the room to put a 10-foot wide bike path on the south side where there currently is no sidewalk or pathway at all. And that will link up to what we've done at Bowerwick Wood Park. Council approved the further study of 9 Mile the other night, so we'll have some additional engineering. We're waiting to hear on a TAP grant in April from Evergreen to Northwestern Highway, and we're really starting to build this pathway network. Council also authorized the other night, last Monday, a study of the Valley Woods Trail from 12 Mile down to 10 Mile to do the engineering analysis and cost estimates so that we can be in a best position to apply for additional funding to fully develop this trail as an accessible trail and greenway, not only in Southfield, but as a major attraction in southeast Michigan and southern Oakland County. We continue to develop our branding, not only in the city center, but in the Smart Zone, our DDA. We're working in partnership with Oak Park on developing greenfield beautification. We're starting to upgrade our entranceway signs, our street furniture, And then, as you're aware, we're in a pilot program with APT Solar. We have 20 motion-detected solar-powered bollard lighting along a stretch south of Red Pole Park. And so far, everything's been pretty successful, but at the end of this study, we're helping this entrepreneur that started out of our incubator at Lawrence Tech. If they can get the funding to mass produce these, this will lower the costs and it will provide a benefit to all our parks and trails throughout the city without the expensive cost of hardwiring electrical lighting. Again, we're at the final stages of our implementation of our streetscape and wayfinding within the city center, and we're starting to broaden that throughout the rest of the city. I'm also working on improving our trail system and trailhead signage. We're continuing to develop the Northland 1.5 mile perimeter road. Earlier today, Mr. Payson and I met with representatives of Triumph Church, and they will be developing their parking lot right in here, which is about 5 to 6 acres. So they'll be resurfacing, putting stormwater management, and they'll be, along their entire frontage, they'll be putting in a 8 to 10 foot pathway and the streetscape brick piers and wrought iron fence that we've had installed as part of the Costco Business Center. And then you've got the development here on Greenfield. Ascension Providence Hospital has another parking lot. So we're starting to build the pieces of this 1.5 mile perimeter that will eventually link into the 9 mile Greenway corridor, potential JL Hudson pathway in the median, and then link up with our city center trail at Magnolia Center. And then this is some of the Greenfield beautification that we're working in partnership with Oak Park and the Downtown Development Authority, that sometime early summer, you'll start seeing some new banners, new signage. These are some of the contenders for new branding that will be at the north and south side of the median and be incorporated into our banners and signs in partnership with the City of Oak Park. And then Mr. Bullen and Ms. Hanna and others have been implementing our bus stop priority by installing key walks at all our bus stops and making sure that there's at least an accessible concrete pad with bench and trash receptacle. We've been averaging 12 to 15 of these each year. And here's our totals for the last 3 years. We're putting a bid package together for an additional 15 to 20. They'll be going out to bids shortly. And this is our projections for the next 3 years of what our needs are at the high priority bus stops. And then we continue to invest in our infrastructure, especially at some of our more strategic areas where people are walking and biking in our neighborhoods. And then we have some long-range plans for the front lawn of the Civic Center to make it more accessible. One of the projects that got approved last year that will be rolling out soon, we're just on the final stages of approving the graphics. We're going to purchase 7 sets of these solar-powered compactors, recycling and trash, and put them around the campus as a test. And if they're successful, then we'll start implementing them in our parks and other park facilities. If you go to any of major cities nowadays, you'll see these. I saw these recently in Philadelphia. I actually noticed Ferndale has them, and other major communities have been implementing this. We're trying to improve our average for recycling, and we have a number of programs that are supported by some recent surveys that we've done. And we also are the first, I believe, community, not only in Michigan, but in the nation that's doing a food waste reduction pilot program for the next 6 months. And so Ms. Hannah, our sustainability planner, and Mr. Bolin has been working with a number of ad hoc advisory groups on finding ways to reduce food waste, which ultimately reduces methane gas in landfills and transportation costs. And we have all this excess food, and yet we have a lot of people that are underfed and undernourished in this community, in our country. And so we can do a better at that. So that's a high-level overview. As you recall, I think this took 3.5 hours at our study session, 2.5 hours at Finance Committee, and I think I did this in about 30 minutes here. So. Yes.
I have a question regarding Northland Drive. If the church is going to do some things and the development is coming along, when are they going to do the road?
Well, that's in the pipeline. There's some preliminary engineering that are being done right now. Obviously, we got to find the funding, but that was part of what I was speaking to Ms. Schultz about, is some of the more immediate temporary pedestrian improvements that we can do there without spending too much money before we know that the whole road's going to be redone. And everything from putting that on a road diet, conceptually I'm looking at putting a pathway in the middle of the median, but the median could go away, things could be shifted. There might be a way of consolidating the road on a diet and increasing the amount of land for development. So all those things are in the works. With regards to the Costco in the south, I think the south is Providence Drive, J.L. Hudson's in the north. Some of the congestion with the buses and the bus stops, that was always a temporary situation. Some of that will be improved as Northland continues to be developed. We've been working with SMART on finding a new park and ride and a respite for their bus drivers as they're doing their routes. And then ultimately, as Northland gets developed, the buses will be integrated, their routes will be integrated through the development, and there will be additional bus transit stops built into the system. So right now, everything is kind of temporary while all this development is happening. But we work closely with DDOT, SMART, and our engineering department, and Northland, and others to coordinate this during the transition.
Okay, the walkway that you talk about that the church is going to do on Northland Drive, is it going to extend in front of the daycare center all the way to that? I don't know the name of that street.
We're talking specifically about is if maybe there's. So if you look up here, they own this roughly 5 or 6 acres. Triumph Church is right across the street. Mm-hmm. So if they have, I don't know, 500, 700 parking spaces here, they have to provide pedestrian access across the street. So when I talk about pedestrian improvements, all of their frontage will be upgraded from a 5-foot sidewalk to an 8 to 10-foot sidewalk, depending on the right-of-way. And then they have to provide some type of mid-block crossing. So the daycare is over here. That'll eventually be taken care of. But what I'm saying, this is the first major piece of this whole strip that'll start seeing the improvements.
Okay.
And then if, let's just say, Ascension Providence Hospital comes in, they'll have the same pieces here. When this northern part of the former Northland Mall gets done, this piece will get done, and then all of a sudden now you've got all of this connected, and then at some point you're going to get to a point where it's just a couple gaps, and then the city or whoever can go in and complete those gaps.
Okay.
I know sometimes it seems frustratingly slow, but every one of these pieces is part of a larger jigsaw puzzle that gets you to the ultimate goal that we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Terry, along with the Costco development in Northland Drive there,
Yes.
there's bus stations along there, 2 bus stops, and there were lights there before they started the Costco project. We have employees or people out there at night in the dark with no lights because they took the lights out and now they're in the dark. Is anything going to be done?
Well,
to
like,
light those?
like I said, those were just temporary. One of those have been relocated right here on the corner. So there's new bus shelter and pedestrian pickup. This used to be the park and ride location previously. So some of those shelters have been relocated over here, and as you know, the Costco is pretty well lit.
The problem is the one in the Costco here, there's a shed there, and it's in pitch black at night.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
and
But I'm
that's-
just saying that as the development happens, there'll be street lighting and other things that are brought in place. And those shelters will go away. And I know we have a temporary situation, but it's not as easy as when we have, soon, I'm hopeful, will be a major announcement of a major new development right at that spot. And so to invest the time and money to put something in that will be ripped out almost immediately afterwards. And again, that was always just supposed to be a temporary location. But it's duly noted. I think the bus transit people are aware of it, we're aware of it. And again, we're working towards a larger redevelopment.
I'm gonna inquire about the city streets. I live on Mount Vernon and it's horrible. In Mount Vernon, between Northwestern all the way down to Greenfield. And I don't see anything that says that they're going to be doing any improvements over in that area, as well as over in the area between Mount Vernon, Greenfield, and Southfield. That community, the roads over there are pretty bad too.
Which section is that?
Maybe I can't see that.
Isn't that 25? Isn't that Mount Vernon?
Yeah, Washington Heights
Yeah,
area.
so, see, it's scheduled, Mount Vernon is scheduled for 2028, plus part of that neighborhood is scheduled for 2028.
Mhm. And then, how far does that go?
That goes from Greenfield to Southfield Road.
From Greenfield to
Here's
Southfield?
Greenfield,
Well, see, I'm
Southfield.
in the purple area, the yellow. So 27?
Over here?
No.
That's
I'm looking at
27.
the here, the yellow.
Washington Heights.
Right,
Right here?
28 section.
Well, that's scheduled for 2027, the yellow.
Yeah, because all of that, from 28 through 25
Right.
is just horrible.
Right, so that's on the schedule for 27, 28, and part of it 2026. And you may or may not have heard, so each road gets evaluated, I think, every 2 years. It's called a PACER rating. So they look at, first of all, we have 3 different jurisdictions. There's the state of Michigan that has certain roads, like Telegraph, 8 Mile. There's the Road Commission of Oakland County, so the even mile roads, 10 and 12, all the way across is Road Commission of Oakland County. Greenfield, Losser, and I think Inkster, could be wrong on Inkster, but I know Greenfield and Losser, north-south, are all Road Commission of Oakland County. 10 and 12 is Road Commission of Oakland County. Then you got your major highways, right? So those are state, M10, 696, Southfield Freeway, Southfield Road, I believe is Road Commission of Oakland County. And then you have your local roads. So with regards to the local roads, every 2 years, they look at the condition of the road, they look at the volume of traffic, and they look at what the infrastructure is. It costs about $1 million per 1 lane, per 1 mile of road for basic repair. If they have to do major reconstruction, so something that's really old, they got to rip everything out and put all new base and stuff in there, that's going to even be more. And then if there's additional engineering costs and so forth. So then they say, okay, we have a limited pot of money. We could do this 2 miles of complete reconstruction, that's all we could do because that's all the money allows. So what they do is they try to look at roads that are fair or poor condition. What do we need to do to extend the life of those roads that are less costly? So if an average road is good for 20 years, can we get an extra 10 years by doing some joint replacement and some spot patching? So that extends the number of roads that they can handle in any given year or given capital improvement. Then they constantly, if the PACER rating scores high, then it might be eligible for MDOT or SEMCOG funding. Then we can use our money and we put 20 cents on the dollar as opposed to 100% of the dollar. So 9 Mile is one of those roads that qualified with the lane reduction to get high priority funding. And so the money that we would have spent out of our pocket 100%, including the pathway, we're getting 80 cents on the dollar. So we're only putting up 20%. So all those things get factored. And unfortunately, the small local road that's a 20, 25 mile an hour road that has limited amount of traffic and it may have a bunch of potholes, but it doesn't really classify as the worst, that's going to be lower priority. But the city and the engineers still try to address that, but they got to address that with the local dollars and that local pot of money. And that's why they come up with this 5 or 6 year plan.
Well, it's been like that for years now.
It could be.
With the new business that opened up at the vacant building there on Mount Vernon and Northwestern, it's a lot more traffic coming through, and we have big semis that come through there. And it's a detour road. I mean, it's very highly used all the time. So I don't know how their studies say that it's very minimally used, because we have complaints all the time about the traffic.
I'm not debating that, but compared to, I don't know how many 360 miles of roads we have. All I would say is that's my high level understanding.
Yeah.
I would strongly suggest and recommend you contact Lee Schultz, the city engineer, because she can give you detailed information of why it's rated that way and how it got rated and why it's part of a priority.
Yeah.
And I know the council gets calls all the time. But there's only a limited amount of money. And we have had a pretty robust, city administrator will tell you that our road millage and our road infrastructure, pound for pound, dollar for dollar, foot for foot, we're as good as anybody based on our population size.
I have a question. Okay, I'm in 28 where they're doing the drains and sewers. The drains and sewers. Nobody told us it was gonna be this bad. It's bad. It's really bad.
You've heard about the NIMBYism, not in my backyard? And we have
Terry.
some members saying, our roads are horrible, why don't you fix it? And then when we go to fix it, you're taking too long, it's a mess. When are you gonna be done?
Terry, I live on one block. I can't get out on one end. The road,
I understand, it's like short-term pain, long-term gain. And again, I would strongly encourage you, don't tell her I said this, call Ms. Schultz.
if they would have just given us, they sent us the information, but nobody told us it was gonna be this bad.
Yeah, well, again, I know, these public hearings and notices, we notify people, nobody shows up, and then as soon as construction begins, everybody shows up, so.
So Commissioners, are there any further questions about the plan itself? No questions? Terry, I was listening to this, and I'm trying to find a way to quantify what you've just shared with us. And the only thing I can think of is this is probably the most democratic, small d document I've seen. It kind of tells us where we are, where we're going, what the thought process is. I don't have to get to know you or somebody else specifically to find out what's going on. This tells us where we want to go tomorrow. And I think I appreciate this. I see it every year. I appreciate it more each year as I can see how it fills in all of those blanks. And so I'm just going to say, it's a job well done. I appreciate the document. I feel I have learned, even though I'm sitting here, I'm learning stuff too about things. And so that's kind of my comment about this plan. And are we to take a vote on whether or not we're going to prove it?
Yeah, I ask that you make a vote to recommend approval to the city
Okay.
council.
Okay.
And then I'll have just a couple closing
Okay.
remarks.
And with that, I'll take your recommendation.
I make that recommendation.
Okay, support for it?
Support.
Show of hands, well, with this, with an aye.
Aye.
All those who have approved?
Aye.
Any object? Then I think we have a good plan, and I think we have approved of it, and I think it's just good work by all the departments. And Terry, I have to single you out too. I think it's a great job, and obviously it kind of focuses on your department, and I don't see how you can do it any better, so thank you.
Well, thank you. And again, I always, it takes our entire team. In particular, I need to always shout out Sarah Mullally because she's our project coordinator. She deals with all the departments. And I've said this to you in the past when Mr. Charette, who was our city manager, who was formerly the accountant, the head of fiscal services, he used to just prepare this on his own with no input from the departments, or little, and then he would give it to us and say, this is what you got to work with. And so we had to change the culture. And when we specifically me coming on board, I'm like, hey, this is a state enabling act. This is a requirement. Planning Commission is the body that they give the authority and duty to coordinate between all the departments. And so the first year or two, there was a lot of fighting and pushback and give and pull, and we get one about halfway done, and then he just take it. And he's a great administrator, don't get me wrong, but again, we had to change the culture. And then when we first started asking the departments, how dare you ask us what our budget is, and we don't want to have to do this, and this is a lot of work. And so again, it was like pulling teeth in the beginning. And it put a lot of work and stress on our department and Sarah specifically because we still had the responsibility of pulling this together, whether the departments played nice or not. And the city administrator gave us his full support and said, if it's not in the CIP, don't even bother coming at budget time and asking us for the money. And then working with O&B and Mr. Michaels, our fiscal services director, and saying he was going to support that. And then this year, finally, we have integrated new software system. It makes it a lot easier. Instead of people turning in hand sheets and us typing it up or having to photocopy and scan it, everything can be done in real time by each of the departments, and then it gets folded in, and then we have kind of the master plan, and O&B has access to it. And so, yeah, we just continue to strive and make better work. I think it's one of the best tools and exercises. If I was a resident, you as the Planning Commission are privileged to go through it, the staff, and I learn each and every year how important all the departments and all the hard work and all the projects that they do. I see a lot of it because I'm at most of the council meetings and I'm hearing approvals, but if you really want to feel good about your community, I think every resident should be part of this process and at least viewing and understanding all the hard work and all the things that we do. We all like to look in microcosm on our own little neighborhood, our own little block, or our own little park, or our little circle, and we don't see all the other things that are going on. And just think about it. We have 26.5 square miles that we have to balance, and everybody's diverse needs, and everybody holding out their hand. More, we want more. So it's worked good, and for all the reasons that I introduced, why this is important that we do this. And I would have to say now, the last 8 years, still a lot of work, but much more cooperation, much more partnership, much more teamwork, and much more streamlined than it's ever been. and yet we can still continuing to improve. So thank you for all of your time on this, and the planning team. And we've got 2 more steps.
Okay.
So on the 8th, I'll be doing this again with council, and then Mr. Payson will be here hopefully for the adoption on the 15th. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
my God.
Mr. Faison, minutes?
Just slide out of this thing.
They're supposed to put notice out for that.
Speed through. There we go. All right. Yeah, we do have the February meetings in your packet, February 7th, February 21st, and February 28th. We are looking for approval of those minutes, if possible, at this meeting.
Thank you. Take a recommendation, the motion?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the February 7th and 21st study meetings and the February 28th regular meeting minutes as provided.
There's a meeting, did you give 3 meetings?
No,
or
we only
2?
have 2.
Yeah, I said the 7th, the 21st,
Okay.
and the regular meeting of the 28th.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Do we have support? Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Vote for approval.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then for public comment, there's no public here. I open up the opportunity for public, and I close the opportunity for public comment. Planner, do we have council update?
Did anybody watch the council meeting Monday night? I feel like I just got home an hour ago.
One of
It
the,
was 5 hours. Everything got approved, not unanimously, I'll just say that. But the gas station alcohol sales, probably about half an hour to 40 minutes of the general public comment were taken up by comments on that, even though they were told they would be given opportunity. And then when we finally got to that item, there was an hour worth of public comment, pro and against. Relatively civil, interesting arguments on both sides. But ultimately, it was approved 5-1. And some of the ills or concerns that the residents had really needs to be taken up to the Liquor Control Commission, because we just follow their rules. And there were some interesting arguments that were brought up, especially, as you've heard, about the ills of alcohol on social norms and drinking and driving, and property values and pedestrian conflicts and all that were being made by the liquor store owners. And they had rallied the troops, so I think there was 5 liquor store business owners that came from all over the city to object. And then you had people that made arguments like, well, I'll still go to the liquor store for my variety and the service, but if I'm at a gas station, it's a convenience. And how much they love the chicken. And then there's, comments pro and con. Interesting, one of the last residents that came up and spoke just said it the way it was. It is odd that the liquor stores are talking about all these social ills. Why don't they just be honest and say they don't want the competition? That would be just more truthful.
Yeah.
And the owners of the liquor store had several family members speak that all were put through law school because of the liquor store. And they were very well spoken, young, articulate, all made good points. And again, we respect everybody's opinion, but I think ultimately one of the council persons said, we've tried legislating morality before, and it hasn't worked so good for us. And it's really still the individual who has to make the choices about drinking and driving and other things. had one resident speak, or I guess public commenters speak about other ills like oxycodone, domestic violence, and other things that are really, in her opinion, more of a concern. So there was good arguments, pro and con. And then ultimately, I think the council said, if they meet the requirements of liquor control, the police department has not seen any uptick in crime. The facts are that other communities that have alcohol sales at gas stations haven't seen any uptick in crime, and that there will be significant upgrades to the site and so forth, that there was really no reason not to approve them. Some of the issues, again, about separation that were brought up are items that the Liquor Control Commission can weigh in on. And if this was just any other retailer that was selling alcohol, they wouldn't have to come to the council at all. They just get their license. And the city has 21 of the beer and wine still based on their population to issue. So if it was just a neighborhood store, a liquor store, a drugstore, or a grocery store, they can just pay their fees, go to liquor control, and they can get their license. And the only reason that there is a public hearing is because of the gas station, because gas stations are special land uses. The carry-out restaurant is a special land use, and I said the reason we have public hearings is to get input from the neighbors and the businesses, just so council can make an informed decision. The one item that was brought up about separation, and we looked into it, and we'll look into it a little further, is, and this is what they were arguing, is that if a gas station, or let me put it this way, if off-premise sales of liquor, wine, or beer is within 500 feet of a school or a religious institution, the Liquor Control Commission have to notify those institutions that there is a pending application and give them an ability to comment. And they may deny based on that, but it's not you have to be 500 feet to be considered. It's if they're within 500 feet, we notify them that there's an application. They are given a period to comment, and then we take that under consideration before we make a decision. And I think the argument was, well, they're within 500 feet or whatever, then is it from door to door? Is it from property line to property line? It's all about how you measure it. And if these guys apparently, I think, already received their license, so they would have already gone through that process with a liquor control license, either determined that notification was required, or they did notify and there was no objection. So we don't have any standing to deny in those cases. Then there was some discussion about whether there should be a moratorium in place. And we talked about the fact that for a long time, the city did not allow liquor sales at gas stations. We actually had a moratorium in place, if you recall, on outside sales and ice chests. And as a result of that moratorium and the request of council to come up with regulations on the sale of gas, we tried to fix some of the ills and some of the non-conforming situations. And then council just recently, I think August or fall, approved these conditions. And so what is the standing to create a moratorium now? Because we're not studying anything more. We didn't put separation. We didn't limit the number because the number are being limited by the fact that our population only gets so many. Or in Oakland County, an applicant can transfer it in based on the availability of licenses. So there's already some controls built into the system. And there will be further discussion. We're going to have to come back and do more work out with the council on how they want to proceed in the future on this. But under the current situation conditions, that applicant deserve to go through its due process, because there was a motion or discussion about put a moratorium in place and stop this one applicant right now and then. We have processed 3 existing gas stations for alcohol sales, that was the 3rd, and 1 new build on Northwestern. But it's very likely, based on what we're hearing, that they're not going to move forward because of some of the underground contamination on the site. And then we have 1 in the pipeline. And there could be future ones, but right now, out of the 37 gas stations, we've only processed 3 with one in our system.
The ones that happened for you, I got an email this week related to another one that's likely to submit next week. So.
Right, but until we
The one currently
officially,
here,
until we
submit
officially
the
get it.
money, it ain't a thing yet.
Yeah, and not everybody, I mean, if you take the attorney that was representing the gas station owner at his word, it costs several $100,000 between the licensing and apparently they have to have a minimum amount of stock. They gotta have like $70,000 worth of alcohol sales of inventory. So if you add that up, plus the cost of the license and the cost of improvements, not every gas station is going to be eligible to do that. Not every mom and pop's going to do it, and not every store is going to be big enough to do it. So I don't see that all gas stations are going to come in and request that. That's a 5-hour meeting in a nutshell. I left here.
Did everything else get approved?
Everything else got approved, and I'm glad he put that up there, because I'll tell you, 2 days ago seems like it was 3 weeks ago. We had the State of the City that day, I had a special display, and then I got home, and I was unloading at midnight, and I had to be back here early the next day. So Panda Express, that got approved. There was a few comments about that, and fine dining versus fast casual. Bloom, that went through without any hitch. Philippine American Culture Center went through without any hitch. The car wash was very favorably received by council. They liked the buildings. They didn't really get into the weeds. So 4 of those 5 major items got approved relatively easily, although there was 11 separate approvals that were required for those 5 issues, plus we had 2 other things on, 2 administrative things on council's agenda that night.
Okay.
The one last thing I do want to say is I don't want to lose sight of a joint meeting. And Tom and I need to really come down with a date, but wasn't there a date in May, Tom, that early in May, one of the early cows or discussion items where...
A bunch of tentative meetings scheduled during the budget in May, maybe one of those could be converted, or it could be stacked in with, let's talk to Ari about it. But we can,
Yeah, so what I think, speaking to the council president, instead of trying to schedule a special council meeting with all the extra budget meetings that we have and try to coordinate your 7, I think what we did last year was schedule a joint meeting an hour or so before the regular meeting.
Yep.
We could have it in a different room, then there's a clean break, and then we adjourn and come in and council can have their meeting, so that we're not asking or burdening an additional meeting for 2 bodies, public bodies. So I think we're gonna try to target one of those early May meetings.
Because that's what we did last year.
Yes, I'm just saying that, I think that worked best than
Yeah.
trying to find a Tuesday or a Thursday or a different night where everybody's here, because councils already have additional budget hearings in May and June. So there's already additional nights that they're working on, plus our regular Arts Commission and everything else that we have to do.
And I don't think that last year was the first time that we've had a joint meeting in a long time. So I think that this year's meeting, that there are no real issues, and last year we had an issue. So I don't think this year there's no clear-cut issue. It's just reaffirming what it is, the
Make sure we're on the same
relationship.
page.
Yeah, make sure we're all on the same page. So I think that an hour, 45 minutes, I think will be good.
I agree, except that it's interesting how 2 new members and 1 newer member. In essence, we have 3 newer members on council. And, you know, we've had a couple comments about, is this your vision of the city by bringing gas stations to us? Well, no, we actually have a master plan that has 12 vision items and umpteen goals and objectives, and it's just about education and orientation and working together. So I still think the joint meeting will be fruitful for you to share your concerns as residents and planning commission members with the council, and have the new council members share some of their concerns or understanding about what we do.
Okay.
And what, you know, all that stuff. So it's just interesting how 2 or 3 people on the board can change the whole dynamic of how they work as a body. And we when we were presenting the site plan conditions, we took a little time to take a step back and do a high-level overview of the master plan and the visioning. And I offered to come back at a future study session. We can spend an hour talking about the master plan, especially for the newer members, so.
With that, miscellaneous?
Yeah, miscellaneous, we just note in the April meetings, we've got a study meeting on April 10th at 6:30. We do have a few items that'll be coming forward. I think we have 4 items on the agenda at this point, projects that are coming to you. An RUDD, an ODD, and a couple of special land uses. So the RUDDs and the ODDs are always kind of a little more interesting. There's a lot more kind of going on with those projects. So I think that'll be with having 4 projects, 2 of them have a lot more kind of bells and whistles on it that we need to talk about. So I think that'll be an interesting meeting. The 24th, we'll just bring those items back to move them along. And we are working on, I'm planning on next Friday carving out some time to start writing the site plan review amendments and the marijuana hours amendments and the urban agricultural amendments. I'm pretty much blocking out like a day just to start drafting the zoning amendments, because I gotta. It's not one of those things you do when you get it. It's not something you can work on when you get interrupted every 15 minutes. You really need to apply your mind to it and really be looking at the details. If you get interrupted too much, you lose track, you lose things, and it just gets difficult. So I got to carve some time out just for that. But it's on my schedule. I got it blocked out.
Thank you so much. I'd like to remind everyone the State of the City is here tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow at 7.
7 o'clock.
Okay. And does anyone have any other comments or items for the good of the, then with that, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.